got that, but she's doing well in the polls. And she raised $81 million in the first 24 hours since Biden stepped down. And that's $81 million from small dollar donors. The largest donation you could give to that $81 million at the time was $3,300 or $3,200, something like that. So it was 800,000+ people that donated to her. And a lot of those were $15, $20. And out of the 80 million, when they did this survey, well, not the survey on it, the research on it, 60% of those 800,000, those donors, so over 500,000 of them, had never given money to politics before. That's a huge sign that she's invigorating a lot of people that would normally not be engaged. Are now excited. Right? So she's doing really well. She's initial shock polls. She's tied with Trump in most places. She can beat him in others. And that's right out of the gate. And she's raised she's raised record amounts of money on top of that. And she's been doing these Zoom calls and hundreds of thousands of people on these Zoom calls. I mean, I think at one point it broke Zoom. Because it was too many people. And on top of the fact, the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, when they get up and they're going to nominate her, right? Already, the entire Democratic Party, if you want to volunteer, good luck. They don't have any more spaces for any more volunteers. DNC is already sold out. Beyonce is already endorsing her. Right? Charlie XCX is endorsing her. All these famous people are coming out. Who did Trump get? I know you missed this last week. Trump got Hulk Hogan. That's who he got.
Oh, he's a real weirdo too.
Oh, he's a real creep, yeah. Yeah, we covered his...
He's a real weirdo.
Well, remember, he got fired from the WWE for using the N-word a bunch of times. Saying
he's also like fairly sexist as far as I'm concerned. Extremely. He had that reality TV show. I'd only seen it maybe a couple of times, but it was a couple of times enough to show. I was like, gosh, I didn't realize how sexist he was, just seeing him interact with people.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and he got kicked off the air for being homophobic. And that was back in, 2010 or whatever that was. But they've got nothing on Kamala, so we've got to think of another strategy is kind of where they're going. So Mike Johnson, the brilliant Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, who we've made fun of a ton because he only got there because he was the most bland person, because they couldn't get anybody else. Mike Johnson's got a plan. It's not a good plan, but it's a plan. A little slow today on the internet.
Switching someone out like that. 14 million people went through the process and chose this nominee, Joe Biden. Now a handful of people have gotten together and decided he's no longer suitable. That's not how this system works. They are violating democratic principles. And I think that's a real problem, and I think there'll be a lot said about that in the days ahead.
This is Democracy Watch. Mark,
So, we'll get into Mark Elias here. This is Brian Tyler Cohen's show. Mark Elias is a really brilliant lawyer. So Mike Johnson's this is the other argument they made too, is it's undemocratic because Biden won all the primaries for the Democratic Party, right? Harris wasn't running in those, so now that he's stepping down, to just give it to her is undemocratic, and that's against the rules, which is bullshit. And Mark Elias will talk about this in a little bit, but that's their argument that they're making. And then the second part of that, real quick, before we get into that, the second part of that is he's going to try and push lawsuits in different states to get her off the ballot because of this. So that way she won't be on the ballot in every state, and that's how they're going to try and beat her. But that's what they're going to talk about here real quick.
Was Mike Johnson, and of course, as we all know, there's been a lot of talk about legal challenges from people like Republican Speaker Mike Johnson. So to be clear, are there any legal obstacles that would prevent Kamala Harris from becoming the Democratic nominee now that Joe Biden has stepped aside?
Absolutely not. There is 0.000% chance that Mike Johnson and his fevered dream of somehow there being legal action to prevent Kamala Harris or whoever the Democratic National Committee nominates and submits to the states to keep them off the ballot. There is no chance that will happen. You know, Mike Johnson has been hanging out with insurrectionists for so long that he has flipped the legal from the illegal. Mike, this is legal. What you all did in 2020 was illegal.
He's got it. Let me explain this because it's so stupid. So, the Republican Party picks its candidate, the Democratic Party picks its candidate, and anybody else who is, you have to be born in this country, over the age of 35, and you've had to contiguously lived in the United States for the last 8 years. If you meet those 3 requirements, you can run for president. The next step is you just got to go to each state and jump through the hoops to get on their ballots. And some of them require you to get petitions signed by enough people and things like that. But anybody can run. The parties are separate from that, from the election, in that sense. They just pick whoever they want to run. And the parties can do it however they want. And the Democrats haven't nominated anybody yet. It was just assumed to be Biden because he's the current president. It usually is. Right?
Right.
And yeah, they held primaries, but the primaries are to see where their voters are. And the Republicans held primaries too. Trump didn't compete in the debates. But remember this. In 2020, the Republicans didn't hold any primaries. They just nominated Trump. So is that illegal and undemocratic, Mike Johnson? Democrats can put whoever they want up. As long as it's a person over the age of 35 who's lived in the country, they can put anybody they want. They didn't even have to put Kamala. They can put whoever. And then, of course, the upside is you can't say it's not democratic because whoever they nominate, whoever the Republicans nominate, they'll put them on the ballots in the states, right? And then we get to vote on it, and then the Electoral College decides. So how is that not democratic? I mean, the Electoral College we could argue about, but you still get to pick who you want to vote on. You don't have to vote for Kamala. You don't have to vote for Trump. You can write Elmo in. It doesn't matter. You still get a vote. But that's what they got. They're going to try and find some legal way to get this to the Supreme Court and hope the Supreme Court overturns it and picks the next president. That's what he wants to do. So essentially, he wants to take away democracy in his argument for, I'm going to make it, I'm going to take away your right to vote and your right to choose the leader. I'm going to take all that away, and I'm just going to give it to the Supreme Court who's already in our pocket. That's what he wants to do. So basically saying, I want to take away your right to vote because giving you the right to vote is undemocratic. That's his argument.
Oh my God, you just can't make this stuff up.
Well, in the presidential immunity case, the Supreme Court actually declared the Constitution was unconstitutional. And that's why it's so funny to me. He's like, you're mixing up legal and illegal, man. You're the guys who tried to overthrow the country. And overthrow the government. And now you're trying to do it again by saying they're doing it, so we have to do it. It really, that's their whole strategy. Is they have to do it's us or them thing to pass all this shit. That's what they got. Oh man. So that's what's going on there. But let's move into